Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Hare Krishna. We're studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 10, entitled Bhagavatam is the Answer to All Questions. Thank you. And we're on text 48 of Chapter 10. Today is December 10th, 2021. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, to Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, and to Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Utama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Text 48. Shvanako Uvacha Yat Aha Na Bhavan Sutta Kshata Bhagavata Uttama Chachara Tirtani Bhuva Tyaktva Bandhun Sudustyajan Shanakuvacha Yadaha no Bhavan Sutta Shata Bhagavatottama Chachara Tirtani Bhuvas Tyaktva Bandhun Sudustyajan Shanaka Uvacha Yadahano Bhavan Sutta Kshata Bhagavato Tama Chachara Tirtani Bhuvas Tyaktva Bandhun Sudustyajan Shanakovacha Yadahano Bhavan Sutta Ksata Bhagavato Tama Chachara Tirtani Bhuvas Tyaktva Bandhun Sudustyajan Shonaka Uvacha Yadahano Bhavan Sutta Shata Bhagavatottama Chachara Tirtani Bhuvas Tyaktva Bandhun Sudustyajan
Sanaka Uvacha Yadahano Bhavan Sutta Sata Bhagavatottama Chachara Tirtani Bhuvas Tyaktva Bandhu Sudustyajan Shanaka Uvacha Yadahano Bhavan Sutta Sata Bhagavatottama Chachara tirtani bhuvas.
Chachara tirtani bhuvas.
Chakva bandhun sudustyajan.
Chakva bandhun sudustyajan. Would someone online like to recite? Yes.
Sanaka uvacha.
Sanaka uvacha.
Yadahano bhavan sutta.
Yadahano bhavan sutta.
Shatya bhagavatato maha. Chachara tirtani bhuvas.
Chachara tirtani bhuvas.
Tyatva bandhun sudustyajan.
Yatva bandhun sudustyajan.
Shonaka uvacha.
Shonaka uvacha.
Yadahano bhavan sutta.
Yadahano bhavan sutta.
Kshata bhagavatottama.
Kshata bhagavatottama.
Chachara tirtani bhuvas.
Chachara tirtani bhuvas.
Tyaktva bandhun sudustyajan.
Yatva bandhun sudustyajan. Okay, we'll go to the word for word. Shonaka uvacha. Shri Shonaka Muni said.
Shonaka Muni said.
Yat.
Yat.
As.
As.
Aha.
Aha.
You said.
You said.
Na.
Na.
Unto us.
Unto us.
Bhavan.
Bhavan.
Your good self.
Your good self.
Sutta.
Sutta.
O Sutta.
O Sutta.
Ksata.
Shata.
Vidura.
Vidura.
Bhagavata Uttama.
Bhagavata Uttama.
One of the topmost devotees of the Lord.
One of the topmost devotees of the Lord.
Chachara.
Chachara.
Practice.
Practice.
Tirtani.
Tirtani.
Places of pilgrimage.
Places of pilgrimage.
Uva.
Uva.
On the earth.
On the earth.
Tattva.
Tattva.
Leaving aside.
Leaving aside.
Bandhun.
Bandhun.
All relatives.
All relatives.
Sudustyajan.
Sudustyajan.
Very difficult to give up.
Very difficult to give up.
Translation. Shaunaka Rishi, after hearing all about the creation, inquired from Sutta Goswami about Vidura, for Sutta Goswami had previously informed him how Vidura left home, leaving aside all his relatives, who were very difficult to leave. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. The rishis, headed by Shaunaka, were more anxious to know about Vidura, who met Maitreya Rishi while traveling to the pilgrimage sites of the world. Okay, that's a short purport. Still, I'll close there and we'll discuss that verse in purport. Okay, so we'll start by reciting a few additional mantras to invoke auspiciousness, really to invoke the presence and blessings of pure personalities, so that hopefully by their blessings, whatever I say will represent them accurately and rigorously in word and spirit, so that it's not just like David Wolf's ego speculating that what I'm saying, sure, in my distinctive way with my personality, but that I'm transmitting the message from Srila Prabhupada and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and all of these great personalities, Vyasadeva, who compiled the Bhagavatam, Shaunaka Rishi, Shukadev Goswami. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shlakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaisnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaraganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanditam Scha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagat Pate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpa Tayubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patidanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 10, Text 48. Shanaka Uvacha Yadahano Bhavan Sutta Kshata Bhagavato Tama Chachara Tirtani Bhuvas Taktva Bandhun Sudustyajan. Shanaka Rishi, after hearing all about the creation, inquired from Sutta Goswami about Vidura, for Sutta Goswami had previously informed him how Vidura left home, leaving aside all his relatives who were very difficult to leave. Hare Krishna. Okay, so we have like a clear kind of change of subject here, a natural continuation in a sense. And also we have a change of speaker. Okay, so previously in the Bhagavatam, like chapter 13 of Canto 1, now we're ending chapter 10 of Canto 2. So there was a lot about Vidura gave very wise guidance to his brother and sister-in-law, Dhritarashtra and Gandhari. Okay, so Vidura had gotten unceremoniously booted out of his family household because some there were envious of him and they felt threatened by him. Vidura is a pure devotee. He's a great devotee. All right, so now it could seem like, oh, okay, because Canto 2 went to other topics and Canto 1 went to other, Canto 1 has 19 chapters, so where are we going here? Because now, from our perspective, it's just like, oh, it's been about 7 years since we heard about Vidura. But there, for the sages at Naimisharanya, it's probably far less than 7 hours, just to get some perspective. Maybe it's, 3 or 4 hours, going to other topics. And now the sages headed by Shaunaka, they're saying, okay, now a few hours ago, you mentioned about Vidura, such a fascinating personality. We want to hear more about him. Just to give some perspective, like for us, well, why are we going back here? But it's just like in a conversation. And we might go on a meaningful tangent or even a tangent of a tangent. It's all purposeful. And okay, now you mentioned about this. Let's continue that thread. And so at the beginning of the third canto, which is coming up just in 2 verses, or 3 or 4 verses, we're going to hear more about Vidura. Now, actually, Vidura, he's really the main questioner and listener for the whole 3rd and 4th cantos of Bhagavatam. 3rd canto has 33 chapters, 4th canto has 31 chapters. We started these morning programs with the first verse of Bhagavatam, 111, in December 2010. So at the pace we're going, will be absorbed in Vidura's pastimes and philosophy for about the next 20 to 25 years. Maybe we'll go at a quicker pace. It could. Maybe we'll go at a slower. But we've been doing about 3 chapters per year, a little less. So just do the math. So when I turn 80 years old, we'll still be absorbed in Vidura. Just giving some perspective here. Yeah, fun perspective. Okay. So now, all right. So Vidura, who is Vidura? Okay, introducing him here, and just like, no, there's this intensive chapters. I mean, about his life, more so about the philosophy. He's not even so much speaking, but he's inquiring, just like we have. Mostly it's Arjuna inquiring, Krishna speaking. That's Bhagavad-Gita. I'll mention that the invocation mantras I recited, they're found at the beginning of the introduction to Bhagavad-Gita, Bhagavad-Gita as it is. Here, in this canto, it's mostly Parikshit Maharaj asking questions and Shukadeva Goswami responding. When we get to canto 3 and canto 4, it's Vidura asking perfect questions. And Uddhava and then Maitreya responding, just to give some context. Okay, so why should we be interested? Okay, so yeah, so okay, this is like, yeah, Vidura, because here's the thing, we're interested. I'm not talking about humanity in general. Okay. We're interested, like we could probably say a lot about certain entertainment personalities or certain sports personalities or certain personalities maybe in the personal growth world or maybe personalities on TV or personalities in politics. Okay. So we get to look at the question, who am I associating with? Either, in person or by vibration. Who am I hearing from? These are monumentally important questions. Who am I associating with? Who am I hearing from? Okay. So as far as like Shaunaka Rishi, Vidura, Parikshit Maharaj, Shukadeva Goswami. Okay, well, who are these persons? Now, okay, so like if our interest is like, I really want to progress in self-realization. I really want to progress in Krishna consciousness. I really want to progress in realizing who I am is not the body. Then these are the personalities we ought to get to know. These and many more, because like, okay, again, like we could probably name different, whatever, entertainment or political personalities. And I know this, I read this article and I heard this one said this one about that. Okay, but let's say if we said, let's say if it was time for, each of us speak 20 minutes about Raghunath Das Goswami. Go.
Yeah.
Okay, Raghunath Das Goswami. So hopefully we could, only 20 minutes. I want to speak at least 2 hours about Raghunath Das Goswami. Okay, but it's like, oh, well, I could, again, I could speak about this clown on the TV or something for 20 minutes, but not Raghunath Das Goswami. So thank you, Malini. Yes, I knew you could. Yeah, but that's what I said. And I'm just, so there's hundreds of wonderful, pure personalities. And if we're serious about spiritual, because association is so important. Sangha, in the term Sangha. Association is so important. Right? Even in common, it said like thanks for that. All right. Anandini wrote, I could speak about myself in my dramas for lifetimes. Precisely. Thank you. Thanks for your humility. Yes, yeah, I could go on about myself for lifetimes and my dramas. And I'm a hero. I'm a victim. I'm poor me, where I did this, like that. And that's it. So these personalities like Vidura and Shaunaka Rishi and Shukadeva Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, etc., etc. So, yeah, they have no interest in material dramas, no interest in Ishvaravaham, Aham Bhogi, Suham Balavan Sukhi, in the mentality of I'm the controller and I'm the enjoyer. Look at me, I'm the greatest, I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest victim. I'm the most beautiful. I'm the most attractive. I have the best complaints, or whatever it is. They're just interested in serving Krishna. Just interested in serving Krishna. So if we want to transform our consciousness from the drama of life to the actual adventure and thrill of Krishna consciousness, we want to associate with these personalities. Just like it said, right? Like if. And I don't know how true it is, but you can commonly hear these things in personal growth. Like, yeah, if you want to know, if you calculate the average income of the 5 people you associate with the most, and that'll be your income, like that.
You're the average of the 5 people, your closest 5 people around you.
The closest 5 people around you, right? So similarly, like as far as our consciousness, our self-realization. So who are we associating with? In person and through vibration. Prabhupada says real association is preceptorial, vibrational. So Vidura, he's a very, very important person. He's important. He's because Krishna himself is directly revealing to Vidura absolute truth. Okay, same with Prabhupada. So if we want that, I want to live for Krishna consciousness, for absolute truth, to serve Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan mission, to serve Prabhupada's mission. Means that's who we're going to intimately associate with. It doesn't mean like we put up walls. That's who we intimately trust and let into our consciousness. And then wherever we go, just like Prabhupada, he was in Vrindavan, where like everyone's a devotee of Radha Krishna, and he left Vrindavan to where there's no devotees. He went to Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, New York. He went to Gainesville, Florida. He went to Europe, went to New Zealand, Australia. No devotees. But Prabhupada was so filled with devotion, because Prabhupada's so filled in the consciousness of Shukadeva Goswami, Shaunaka Rishi, Bhakti Siddhanta, that he's a touchstone for Krishna consciousness. So it's not about putting up walls. This philosophy of Krishna consciousness, it's very world embracing. It's not like go hide in a cave. I mean, that might be someone's service, but it's not world rejecting. It's about, and that's why the Prabhupada emphasized so much strong morning program, and fill ourselves up with Krishna consciousness, so that when we do our service, we live purposefully, that we're not getting covered over, the diamond's not getting covered over by material consciousness, but we're an inspiration to give self-realization and Krishna consciousness by our very way of being. And it's not a cheap thing. It means we're rigorously cultivating sattvic, and Shuddha sattva means even more pure than sattva. So that's why Prabhupada emphasized strong morning program, fill ourselves up, then wherever we go, we're a touchstone for people to come out of material illusion and awaken to their real selves as blissful spirit soul. Very world-embracing process. So Vidura, we can get more into the history of Vidura, and I'm sure we will, because again, we have like 25 years. So this is the first verse, but so Vidura, he's actually Yamaraj. Yamaraj is like top-level demigod with high-level responsibilities in the universe. Yamaraj is actually like the Lord of Death. He himself is a great devotee of Krishna, but he's in charge of those who kind of like lived decadent, degraded lives, and he kind of takes care of them when they leave their body. There's a lot. 6th canto has a lot about Yamaraj. So Yamaraj himself speaks to his supporters. He describes like 12 especially great devotees, authorities from the Vedic age, and he's one of them. And that he's what's it? Swayambhu Narada Sambhu Kumaro Kapilo Manu Pralado Janako Bali Vaya Sati Vaya. So he describes Brahma and Yamaraj and the four Kumaras and Shiva. These are authoritative personalities, authoritative because they're receiving knowledge directly. Janaka, Bhishma, Shukadeva Goswami, Narada Muni, because it's not just like some speculation. And this is like and so who are we associating with? Are we associating with, to what extent are we associating? I mean, intimately associating. By association, it's not just like who do I happen to be in the same room with, but who am I letting into my heart? Who am I intimately associating with? And to whom am I giving? Who am I sharing my heart? And to what extent am I intimately associating with those who are vibrating revealed truth from Krishna? To what extent am I associating with those where there's alienation from authoritative source? It's not about criticizing them. It's about me being responsible for my purposeful life and knowing where and how, using discretion, where and how to establish boundaries that are going to support me and everyone. Because if I get dragged down into the material whirlpool, I'm not of much good to anyone. Bhagavad-Gita defines there's violence. Violence, of course, like if we kill an animal or something like that. But Bhagavad-Gita says, like if we spend time with someone, and in that time we're not creating value in terms of self-realization, God consciousness, Bhagavad-Gita says that's violence. Avyarta kalatva, a devotee doesn't want to waste a moment that's not creating value for themselves or others in the most sublime way. Right? So, okay. So this is what real love and real friendship is, right? That when in our relationships, we're truly supporting each other in that most valuable way. So Vidura, he actually is an incarnation of Yamaraj. So he's one of these great authoritative personalities from the Vedic age. And okay, so then in the modern age, just like we have, we're hearing from Srila Prabhupada. So this is a shelter. This is our shelter, hearing from Srila Prabhupada. Sometimes we have some different Bhagavad Gita course and like that. Oftentimes when we speak like Prabhupada, he titled Bhagavad-Gita as it is. Some could misperceive that as an arrogant title. Actually, it's the most humble title. Because he's saying, like, I'm giving what Krishna's giving. Okay. This isn't like, here's my idea. Here's my idea. I'm giving what Krishna's doing. So that's where the potency is. That's where the potency is. That sometimes, because what I've heard, like, even when Prabhupada came to the West in the mid-60s, there were already like 600 translations of the Gita into English and other languages. And now there's maybe more than 1,000. So someone could say, so why do you read Bhagavad-Gita as it is? And that's what I teach from, that's what I study from. Maybe it's just your bias, maybe. But I'm going to say, here's an important, I'm going to say, no, it's objective. Because we're interested, right? Everyone knows, Safato means we're into transformation of heart, transformation of consciousness. So if we look that clearly since the 1700s, Westerners, British, Germans, and the Americans, they really appreciated the Bhagavad Gita, translated it. Of course, if you look at the first Sanskrit English dictionary, the author of the dictionary, he said the reason why we want to know Sanskrit, because it's integral language of this culture, and we need to understand their language in order to destroy their culture. I'm saying that was the goal. Okay, so they appreciated Bhagavad-Gita like that, but Bhagavad-Gita, it didn't change lives, didn't transform lives. I'm not saying not at all, but but like, well, smoking my cigar and eating my steak and drinking my wine, appreciating Bhagavad-Gita. Now, Bhaktivedanta Swami gave Bhagavad-Gita as is. Within a few years, tens of thousands of lives completely transformed. Probably millions, tens of millions of lives touched, completely transformed. So this is just historical fact. And he said, well, that doesn't mean it's better. Okay, you can decide. And actually, for many, maybe there might be other versions of Gita you might like better. You might find, yeah, you might find Prabhupada's Gita is like amongst, but maybe it's number one as far as being least comfortable to read. Transformation tends to be that way. Okay, transformation tends to be that way. But just as far as like transformational impact, lives changed, habits changed. Prabhupada's Gita created more transformational impact than all the others combined times a million. Just historical fact. So that's because, so it's not a, why is that? Why is that a mystery? Well, it's sort of a mystery, but it's not really a mystery. Krishna explains it. Krishna explains, so evayam maya tedya yogo prokta praratana bhaktosi me sakachiti rasya me tarutama. He says to Arjuna, you can understand the mystery. In one sense, Bhagavad Gita, it's like a secret. Krishna says, Rajavijja Rajaguyam Pavichami Damutama, it's a secret. But what do you mean it's a secret? It's like open. He's speaking open on the battlefield. There are billions of copies published. It's a secret. It's an open secret. And we can only unlock the secret. Krishna says, you can understand the mystery of this transcendental secret because you're my devotee and you're my friend. You're my devotee and you're my friend. Therefore, you can understand this, Arjuna. So similarly, Prabhupada, he's the first one giving Gita, where the translator, the purporter, is Krishna's devotee and friend. Prabhupada's whole life, every ounce of energy, infinite energy, is devoted to serve Bhagavad Gita. He's also the greatest, he's Bhaktivedanta. He's also the greatest Vedic scholar of the modern age with bhakti. He's Krishna's devotee and friend. That's what he's giving. He's just in service to Krishna. Again, someone can say, well, who's Krishna anyway? Why should we? Someone can have different opinions about whether we want that to be our goal. There's no, it's clear though, Prabhupada, pure devotee of Krishna. We can all just determine whether that's a good thing or not. But that's why there's potency in Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as there is. That's why there's potency there. So Prabhupada says right in the introduction to Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada recommends, he says, we recommend that at least theoretically accept that what Bhagavad Gita is saying is true. So that's the spirit, if you want to maximize the value. At least theoretically accept that Krishna is who he says he is, that Bhagavad Gita is true. He's not saying to blindly accept, but just kind of like try on that set of clothes and enter Bhagavad Gita, that spirit, and see what you experience. So that's the spirit. That's the spirit of Bhagavad Gita. And then in that way, because Prabhupada's giving Krishna as he is, and Prabhupada gives many examples, he gives many examples of others who've given it. They're directly changing Krishna's words and meaning very clearly. And like, well, it's like if you want to write a book because you got ideas, write a book. But why are you doing it through Bhagavad Gita? Well, I could sell more books that way because Bhagavad Gita and Krishna, they're well known and respected. So I get to do my political philosophical agenda through Krishna. So Prabhupada, he stands strong. No, that's not ethical. That's not ethical. Okay. Prabhupada gives many examples. One example is Krishna says, "Man mana bhava mad bhakto majidi mam namaskru mame veshyasi yuktvevam atmanam mad prayana." Krishna says, absorb your mind in me, devote yourself to me, worship me like that. So there's one well-known commentator who says, it is not to Krishna who we should think of or we should devote ourselves. It is the unborn within Krishna. So Prabhupada says, like, I mean, that's cool, isn't it? Like, no, so Prabhupada says, like, where does it say that? What is the unborn with Krishna? Just like somebody, oh, that's mystical. Well, he must know a lot. No, Krishna says, to me, the person, this is personalism, right? There's different aspects of God realization, and the spiritual, transcendental personhood is the most encompassing aspect. So to me, I think Prabhupada gives many examples like that. So, okay, so then so then we're associated with Krishna. We just read this morning before Japa. Prabhupada referenced the verse, Namo Chintamani Krishnas Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddho Nityamukto Binatvan Namanamino. That just Krishna's, that's what spiritual by definition means. It's not dependent on anything material. It's like simple point, but there's actually a lot of misunderstanding about this. I'm not claiming I have no misunderstanding, but I'm trying to hear from Prabhupada. Spiritual means it's not dependent on anything material or physical. That's what spiritual means. So Krishna is fully present in his name. That's why Prabhupada's emphasizing. If we want to get this more and more, and we want to get the joy that's there in Krishna consciousness more and more, chant. Any of these mantras in Bhagavad-Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, they're all transcendental mantras. Krishna is present in all of them. And especially what's called the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And the more we chant, the more our hearts becomes cleansed. And there's different pitfalls. Sometimes we get into like, well, I'm so fallen. Like my chanting is so inattentive. I have an idea. I'll stop chanting till I become pure. Then I'll chant. Now, the mind can do tricky things to take us away from this process. So, yeah. So, now, so Prabhupada, they just said, Prabhupada says that the cure for offensive chanting is more chanting and more reading of Prabhupada's books like that. So, yeah. So we mentioned a few minutes ago, Prabhupada emphasizes there's two types of association. There's Vapu and there's Vani. And Prabhupada emphasizes Vapu means, let's call it physical. Physical doesn't necessarily need to mean material. For example, here on Malini's altar, there's a Murti of Prabhupada. And there's deities of Lord Chaitanya, Gaura-Nitai. There's pictures of Radha Krishna. So that's Vapu. That's Vapu association. Then Vani, that's the Prabhupada calls it vibrational association. But vibrational association. And Prabhupada especially emphasizes the Vani. But whether Vani or Vapu, Prabhupada could, in the previous chapter, chapter 9, Prabhupada has a statement there in a purport. That's when Brahma goes into his penance, tapa, that sort of thing. And Prabhupada says, the potency of transcendental sound is never minimized when the potency of transcendental sound is never minimized when the vibrator is apparently absent. Since I think it's pretty close to it, I'm going to turn to it exactly. Okay, so Prabhupada says there that the potency of transcendental sound is never minimized because the vibrator is apparently absent. I'll read it again. The potency of transcendental sound is never minimized because the vibrator is apparently absent. Okay, so we're here. So this is fully potent sound vibration. Okay, and the Vedas, Prabhupada, emphasize that spiritual sound reveals truth, and it's non-different from the truth it reveals. So Krishna is fully present in the holy name, in his names, and that's why Prabhupada's emphasizing, like, just arrange our lives more and more to that we're exposed to transcendental sound vibration, and then we get purified. It's not just about like, to the extent we're not pure, we can't be happy, right? We can't be happy. To the extent we got all impurity, means we're just shame and walls up and armor and just deception, and just there's no joy there. So expose ourselves to transcendental sound vibration, starting with strong morning program, and then we awaken. We awaken to our blissful spiritual life in devotional service to Krishna. And we hear, actually also in the 9th chapter, just around the same place where I just read that, about the potency is never minimized because the vibrators are apparently absent. Also in that same section, Prabhupada he uses the term current link, right? Like, for Brahma, the current link is Krishna. And for us, our current link is Srila Prabhupada. So that's why we're talking here about Vidura, Shukadev Goswami, Sanaka Rishi. How do we know about these personalities? We know them through Srila Prabhupada. We know them through Srila Prabhupada. So this is a very important principle, because if we're not clear on who our current link to Krishna's disciplic succession is, if we're not clear, then it could be nice. I go here, I heard from this one, I heard from this one. It's not about not hearing. It's about, like, whatever we hear, we're processing it through the pure lenses of our current link to the Parampara. Otherwise, we can just kind of meander here and there and really not progress on the path, So yes, this is Prabhupada uses that term in the previous chapter, current link. And so, so the example, Prabhupada gives the example, okay, just like, because sometimes it's like, I want Krishna directly. It's me and Krishna in the bushes of Vrindavan. I want Krishna directly. Something like that. Or me and Lord Chaitanya. You'll hear things like that. So the example's given, just like I could say, I want a direct relationship with this book. These glasses are in the way. Actually, like, I can't read any words. It's these glasses are in the way. So in one sense, we can say the eyeglasses are between my eyes and the book at the same time, because they're finely crafted, not particularly clean, but that's another story. But because they're finely crafted lenses, they actually enhance my direct relationship with the book. Okay, so we go to the Goswamis, we go to Sri Radha Krishna, we go to Gaur Nitai through the finely crafted lens of Srila Prabhupada, our current link to the Parampara. And that, you might say, in an ironic way, enhances our direct relationship. I want to go directly, then, because that's the system Krishna set up. Like Krishna said, you go through my pure devotee. And our current link is Srila Prabhupada. And that's how we know Vidura. So through Srila Prabhupada, we are cultivating a direct relationship with this Mahatma, this great soul Vidura, okay, through Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, sometimes on the answer I'll say, right, in some of my writings we've expressed, like, okay, so like, let's say if you knew there was like a pure devotee of Krishna down the block, or in South India, or in California, or somewhere. I mean, surely you would go to a sub, because the theme of this class is about association. Krishna says, Machitama, Gataprana, Bodhiantas Praspram, Katyanzastramam Nicham Tushanti Charamanticha. Krishna says, just like Shankar Rishi and the sages with Sutta Goswami, that Krishna says, my devotees love to associate with each other and they derive great bliss and satisfaction. So if you knew there was a pure devotee, you would go be with them. And my answer is, nah, probably not. What? That just goes against it. No, basically, because by dedicate to whatever extent, and I want to do it more and more, to whatever extent I'm dedicating myself with Prabhupada's, to serve Prabhupada's mission, that's how we get an intimate relationship with the pure devotee Prabhupada. So by serving Prabhupada's mission, then I'm directly associated with Prabhupada, directly. Actually, there's a letter Prabhupada wrote to Govinda Dasi. Prabhupada wrote to Govinda Dasi. I'm mentioning Govinda Dasi stayed here in Malini's ashram for like 4 months or something, for a while.
2 weeks.
It was 2 weeks, okay. So Govinda Dasi and Malini are good friends. So back, I think it was like the 60s, Prabhupada wrote to Govinda Dasi and he sort of chastises her. He goes, well, you say you want to be with me, but why do you forget that when you're serving my mission with heart and soul, we're together? Okay. So my interest is to serve Prabhupada's mission, not to try to hop around the globe looking for pure devotees. Now, in serving Prabhupada's mission, naturally, I get to associate with wonderful devotional souls like the 15 or so that are here right now, in person and online. And I'm truly completely satisfied with that association. Nothing missing. Devotional souls. And so if there's this pure devotee in India or Florida or wherever, if it's my service to Prabhupada, I'll go there. And if not, then it's wonderful for the planet that there's pure devotees of Krishna. I'm focused on my service to Prabhupada, and that's how I relate to these great personalities. And I'm not, and that's true for me. And we got about 15 of us here, in person and online, and this is fully satisfying devotional association, committed to serve Prabhupada's mission, Prabhupada, pure devotee of Krishna. All right, so I'll bring the class to a close. I'll read the verse and then I'll be glad to hear your comments and questions. Text 48, chapter 10, canto 2. Shanakuvacha yadaha no bhavan sutta kshata bhagavato tama chatara tirtani bhuvas taktva bandhun sudushtyajan. Shaunaka Rishi, after hearing all about the creation, inquired from Sutta Goswami about Vidura. For Sutta Goswami had previously informed him how Vidura left home, leaving aside all his relatives who were very difficult to leave. Thank you for your presence and attention, and I welcome any comments or questions at this time.
I have a short comment, you don't need to.
Okay.
But the end of your class, when you said, I'm fully satisfied with the 15 of us here, Srila Prabhupada sometimes will say, like when he's with his disciple, he will say that, and they're all pure devotees.
Yeah. Thanks for
I
that.
think it's the same idea.
Yeah. Thanks for that comment, Molly. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Bhakti Drew.
So at one point you mentioned the theme being association.
Yeah.
And another theme for me personally in this class was humility.
Humility. Okay.
Because when you mentioned like, okay, it may seem like, this conversation, like it goes back like 7 years.
Yeah.
Well, it's really just like a few hours. And so like, I thought both about how some of the topics, due to my maybe lack of familiarity, lack of commitment to like serious study, it's like, oh my gosh, it's very difficult to understand. And so I would have imagined like, this is something, this is like a conversation that could have spanned so long because it seems so dense. But it's like humbling and also inspiring, because I would like to learn more and be just like more immersed in studying Prabhupada's books. So this was helpful in that way.
Thank you, Dr. Dhira. I feel successful.
I was about to say that.
No, if somehow, whatever, somehow the verse, the class has moved you to want to be more immersed in Prabhupada's books, then the goal is achieved. Yeah, that's it. And that because there's the emphasis, chant Hare Krishna, chant mantra, and be steady in that. Right. Of course, even if we're not steady, any chanting of Hare Krishna we do, and that's our eternal benefit. Same time, if we want to like each day, I want to progress out of the material ocean to my original blissful life in Krishna consciousness, then it's recommended fulfill our vows steadily, no obstacles in the way. And another cornerstone is Prabhupada's books. And I'm so glad to hear your inspiration. Something somehow, for more than 40 years, somehow I'm reading all the Prabhupada's books again and again. And so I'm very, very glad that somehow I get Prabhupada's inspiration to do that. And this is, and in a sense, less and less am I reading like for philosophical reasons. And I'm reading because in reading, I'm associating with Prabhupada, I'm associating with Narada Muni, I'm associating with Krishna. And that's just so blissful. And by reading Prabhupada's books, then our philosophical intelligence gets sharp, our spiritual philosophical intelligence gets sharpened, and we're able to make distinctions and use discretion about how to associate with different sanghas, how to associate with different energies, again, without putting up walls out of fear. I mean, there is some healthy fear. Prabhupada once said, more than once maybe, he said, my greatest anxiety is that my students are not scared enough of Maya. Like, there is healthy fear. But by reading Prabhupada's books, we can make distinctions about how to associate in such a way that it's going to be spiritually enlivening for everyone. How to, like, where to establish boundaries with this one, who to intimately associate, who to respect from a distance. Like, there's a whole group of devotees, whole group of, actually, Prabhupada mentioned about his god brothers. And he said, respect them from a distance. And so that requires some discretion. Read Prabhupada's books, and we know how to relate to the material energy in such a way to spiritualize it. So thanks for sharing, Bhakti Dhira. Thank you. Payal. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the class. I'm feeling very enlivened and grateful, as usual. And my tendency to sometimes wake up and feel tired, and I was like, I turned on the just being on the phone, and I was debating, and I would have gone to your house, but then I was like, okay, it's at Marie's, it's closer.
Okay.
I'm gonna go.
That was an incentive to get out of bed.
Yes.
Nice.
Oh, my son woke me up before then,
Right.
but I told Quan, I was like, I'm gonna take 10 minutes to just like lay here and put the program on, and I was just grateful to see that it was here, and grateful to be here. I felt like I feel very enlivened by the focus on like who are we being intimate with, like who am I allowing intimately into my consciousness, and but just that, it's like association is one thing. Like you said, I really appreciate it. It's like, okay, who's in my room, but who am I reading? Like, who am I allowing to plant seeds into my consciousness? And so I really appreciated that. And I was reflecting like a long time ago, I would say like maybe 7 years ago, a friend of mine who's from India told me, because this was, I had taken some Savatov classes and I had never read the Bhagavad-Gita then. And he had a copy by somebody else, and he was like, well, be careful that those are Krishna's, because you might get sucked into like the cult, right? And I remember what he said, but I didn't take it to heart.
Okay.
Like he's a friend of mine, but it didn't feel like, I trust him, but it wasn't like, oh, I need to keep this in my heart.
Yeah.
And I appreciate what you and I also have worked on. It's like everything is a science. And initially, you know, I read the copy that he gave me and I didn't feel, it was good.
It's good. Yeah.
Yeah, there was some realization in it. And then I remember reading, I haven't read the whole Bhagavad-Gita as it is, but reading just Prabhupada's books, like initially feeling like this is so hard.
Yeah.
And it was challenging to read.
Yeah.
It is challenging.
It is challenging. Yeah.
And also slowly feeling the potency of them, like beginning to.
Right.
And I'm just recognizing, like, who am I allowing to plant seeds? Like I could have allowed that person to plant the seed and let it germinate and like avoided the Bhagavad-Gita as it is, or avoided Prabhupada's books. But then I'm grateful you've planted seeds in my consciousness of nectar of instruction. I was like, okay, text 3. And I shared with you, and I'll share with everybody else, like I read text 3 every day for about 2 weeks. And it was so transformational. I'm still learning around it, but it was such a gift to get to read it every single day. And like, I felt like every day I would find a sentence and I'd be like, oh, that's what it, like pure devotional service. Text 3 is about what does it mean to be in pure devotional service of nectar of instruction. And so I wanted to share that, you know, this being careful, who are we allowing to plant seeds into our consciousness? And I'm just really grateful that it's a science, and recognizing like, okay, I could have avoided those books and who knows where my life would be now. But I'm grateful that I did not.
Thank you, Kyle. Thanks very much for sharing. Appreciate the language you use. Who are we allowing to plant seeds? And it's not just a superfluous thing, like who do I happen to be in, you know, within 40 feet of or something. But it's vibrational, and who we intimately, who we allowing to plant seeds, and it makes all the difference about the quality of our consciousness, quality of life. I appreciate very much your personal realizations and experience. And you know, often like this process, sometimes, okay, like let's compare, like there's the condition of jaundice. And apparently with jaundice, sweets taste bitter. But the cure, the medicine for jaundice is to eat sweets. And as one gets cured, the sweets begin to taste sweeter and sweeter. So oftentimes this process of Krishna consciousness, at first it can be like, it can feel like not so comfortable, even bitter. But then, but this is the cure for the soul to cleanse and come alive. And then, and then these books, which were there's nectar here. And then more and more, the drops of nectar, then a flood of nectar in the chanting. Even, I was hearing a lecture from Prabhupada in the car, just coming here, and he was in India, in Surat, and he was talking about like, yes, it requires some austerity. But then he goes, but what's the austerity really? He was talking about like, okay, like, so we ask if you want to advance in this consciousness, for example, we ask that you give up smoking cigarettes. So Prabhupada says like, what's the austerity really? It's such a dirty habit that brings no real joy. So what's the austerity really? But then that's this process, that things are really bringing no joy to the soul, but just some temporary gratification in some very superfluous way, based on the illusion that we're the body, we're the material ego. So we give them up because of our attachments. It feels a little bitter. And then reading the books, rising early to chant Hare Krishna, all of that, I can feel. But then it just feels sweeter and sweeter. So I appreciate your experience and realization. Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Hare Krishna. It's Kim. Can you hear me? Yeah. I just want to thank you for class. It was really good. The two things that really I felt hopefully inspired to do is just what you were saying about knowing the personalities, the devotees from Vedic history really well. So you can really, like, I know people who study history, they'll say, oh yeah, I know Jefferson would have done that, or Lincoln would have done that. They know him so well that when they hear something, they're like, I know that's what he would do, you know? And I would like to know the Vedic personalities that well. And so I feel inspired for that. And then the second thing is, you know, that was really inspiring for me is also, like, we can want to do that for ourselves, but then, like you're saying, we also want to be that for other people. We want our association to be so good for them. So by doing that for ourselves, then we can be that for others, you know. So that really inspired me, and I just want to thank you so much for the class. That's it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Kim. I appreciate your comments, and yeah, and we like your comment and Payal's comment, because those who we allow to plant seeds in our heart will develop their qualities for better or worse. So yeah, so like, yeah, so I know Jefferson. I mean, my view is that that's a higher level than maybe like a modern pop star or something. Jefferson, Lincoln, okay, then that might help us to become great Americans, if that's our goal. Of course, but then I appreciate, Kim, that your move to like really want to get to know Maitreya and Vidura and Shukadeva Goswami, because then we develop all the devotional qualities, and we know them all through Srila Prabhupada. And so, yeah, and then we enrich ourselves with this, and then naturally we're just like if someone really learns about Lincoln or Napoleon or Jefferson or some pop star, you want to share about it. So we hear from Prabhupada, we're eager to share about Prabhupada, we're eager to share about Shukadeva Goswami. Thank you, Kim. Anandini.
Hare Krishna. I appreciated your class a lot too. It felt like listening, I could see a lot about myself and where I'm at.
Yeah.
And that felt very grounding and humbling also. Like when you spoke about the whirlpool of the material miseries and how we get drawn into them, how I get drawn into them again and again. And when you spoke about association,
Yeah.
also I noticed that, yes, there's a lot of freedom in having the ability, the possibility to associate through sound vibration. So there's a lot of freedom in that, and I appreciate that. And at the same time, I do have like a longing or a hankering for association. And if I knew Srila Prabhupada or Jesus Christ was going to visit Vila this weekend, I would want to go there. I would go there. So yeah, I was thinking about that. And a question that came up for me is, how do we, you were also speaking about, we could conclude, or the mind could conclude, because my endeavor to chant with focus is not leading to any success, I could just stop chanting.
Okay.
And that speaks to me a lot. Because I feel frustration about my chanting or my focus in chanting, and I don't see that I'm making progress. So unless I have this rare moment of true humility, when I truly see the mud I'm in, the misery I'm in, and I'm wondering if you could say a few words about developing steady humility. Like true humility, not the poor me self-deception game, but the true humility of seeing my position where I am in the material world, and at this also, like the misery of it, and also the grace of it, because I am connected with devotees of God. I do have a lot of signposts in my life.
Thank you, Anandini. I appreciate your sharing a question, all aspects of it. As far as, let's call it, the in-person association, of course, we seek it out. Here we are. We've organized thousands of programs because of this type of association. And in this point, it can be a little subtle, and in a sense, we don't want to be dependent on it. We don't want to artificially say, oh, I'm not dependent on association, then we're not responsible to create the association that'll energize us steadily. And then we become dry and we fall away from Krishna consciousness. Well, it means, like, okay, let's say our service in the day has us here and there, our service in a particular month here and there. It means that it's like, okay, well, now, because I'm not in the association of other devotees, like I'm at morning program, I'm at my job or whatever, okay, now I can't be Krishna conscious. No, we want to be dependent on Prabhupada's association, which is always available, and dependent on chanting Hare Krishna. And that so that wherever we are, just like Prabhupada left Vrindavan, you can say, oh, then he had no association. He was always associated with Bhaktisiddhanta, associated with Krishna. And so wherever we go, whatever that, we're giving Prabhupada association. And then humility, well, what could an arrogant person like me speak about humility? But I'll, okay, some things I've, heard from Prabhupada, like, all right. So, to the extent that we're keeping our purpose and service and mission in mind, and just like, how can I serve? How can I serve? How can I serve? How can I serve Prabhupada's mission now and today with this person in this coaching session and going to this post office? How can I be in service to Prabhupada's mission? To the extent that I'm absorbed in that service mood, there's really not much room for, like, look at me, like how that's knowing our position. Okay. And then it's just like, I guess, okay, then Prabhupada describes humility as like, yeah, not being eager to be honored. Again, like if honor naturally comes, it's not like an artificial humility, like we might receive it, but we don't let it get to our head. So like if I notice that I'm feeling resentful because I'm not being praised enough, just like awareness, just to notice that, not pretend it's not there and beach ball it, but notice that. Or if I am being appreciated, I am being honored. And if I notice, like, am I receiving this on behalf of Prabhupada and Krishna? Or am I like, yeah, I am great. Wow, I guess I am better than others. Wow. And like it just, maybe it's gross, but just to notice that weed, not to go into a whole shame thing. Just notice when I'm being honored or when I'm not being honored, what's happening for me and how pure is it or impure. And where the impurities are, notice that, pull that weed. And then, let's call it the quintessential humility verse, text 3 of Lord Chaitanya Shikshastakam. Srinadapi sunichena turoi vasahishnuna amanina manadena kirtanya sadhari. Lord Chaitanya, that's the classic humility verse. To think oneself lower than the straw on the street, to be more tolerant than a tree, to desire no respect for oneself, ready to give all respect to others, not just people, even the ant. And in such a state of consciousness, in such a state of humility, then we're free to joyfully do kirtanya sadhari, kirtan all the time. And without that humility, then I'm going to be distracted from my kirtan, from my service, because I'm not getting enough honor. Or, wow, yeah, I am getting honored. I'm really like elated that people like me or something like that. It'll just distract me. So to stick to that service mood, and when we notice we're distracted by either not getting enough appreciation or letting it move me to material elation, when I'm getting appreciation, just notice those weeds and pull them, and to associate with others who are serious on the path. Thank you, Anandini.
In our Shikshastakras, there also is a devoid of all sense of false prestige.
Yeah.
How will you define that? And then,
Okay. Oh, you're done. Okay. All sense of false prestige. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's a subtle distinction between, So like the positive is, if we want to progress, we should be humble, and then the negative, and we shouldn't be proud. False prestige, and it can be just like, I think they're kind of the same thing, but one is in the positive, one's a negative, and the Vedas often do that. But yeah, so prestige can, whereas one thing that humility, pride can be around, oh, someone appreciated me, but prestige can be like, I live in a prestigious neighborhood. Oh, do you know I have a PhD?
or to think that we are better than others.
Yeah.
That what we do is better than others,
Yeah.
and that we are all better than others.
Yeah, that like superiority, that based on some material qualification.
Or spiritual qualification.
Or spiritual qualification.
Doesn't need to be materials.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we may have spiritual qualification and go into false prestige. It seems to me what's most in my way in chanting or anything is that I go to humility, and then I have those moments of like my chanting is clearer, or I feel more connected to Krishna, but as soon as I notice that, I want to own it, and then it's gone. And that's, there is something there that, the false prestige connected with spirituality. I think it's even more dangerous than the one connected with materiality.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, actually, I'm the most humble person in this room. I've chanted 16 rounds per day for almost 40 years. So I know so many shlokas.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, so it could be things that are attached to, of course, once it becomes false prestige, it's no longer spiritual. Yeah, so it can be subtle.
But the false prestige seems to be attached, because if it's attached to a house or all that, it's not very dangerous, in fact.
Right.
Material desire are not that dangerous in spiritual life.
Yeah.
But when it's attached to spiritual life, it seems that, it's like Krishna left the gopis because of, in a sense, false prestige. That's what comes to mind about that one.
Yeah.
Because more humble than a straw in the streets, more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of prestige, and ready to offer all respect to others.
Yeah.
In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. And recently I read in the third canto the trajectory of the living entity. I don't remember exactly towards the end of the third canto.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, reading it is like reading it. There's no way if we really absorb the knowledge from those few chapters that we are going to not be humble. Yeah, to really absorb it, because it's just a trajectory and the birth and the staying in the womb and then getting entangled and there's so many ways this field of activities is kind of made of
all sorts of pathetic circumstances we've gotten ourselves into.
Exactly, and nothing else, So it's like by understanding and video, it's conversation between Vidura and Maitreya.
Yeah. And
that conversation brings to Kardama Muni. But anyway, and Kapila, Lord Kapila really described in such a fine details our position in the material world just by taking births. that should be enough for us to be completely humble. Just by knowing that, oh, I took birth from a mother, from the womb of a mother. That should be enough. And then those chapters are really trying to knock. There's no reason for you to be puffed up or false prestige or anything. Look what you put yourself into, and the soul praying in the womb, like, please, let me not forget. Let me really remember, and just forget everything as soon as it comes out.
Yeah, for even just
Keep attention.
It shouldn't be hard to be humble.
No, it shouldn't be hard.
Just a little bit of honesty. Yeah, but it's hard for me. Yeah. That's why. Yes, it's meant again. The movements of the living entities, life in the world. That's the chapter.
Yeah.
So Bhagavad-Gita and Prabhupada stresses points so much like wisdom, knowledge, Janma Mitra Jaravadi, Dukkha Doshanu Darshana, realizing the inherent misery, the inherent evil, the inherent foolishness of the cycle of birth, death, old age, disease, and just being trapped in. When we say evil, because like if we're in our relationships, even if we call it love, if we're supporting each other to continue in the cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease, we're supporting the degradation of the soul.
Mm-hmm.
That's evil.
That's
evil.
Yeah. If we can get, that's the thing. Like those chapters are so clear, and if we can get those descriptions, that we come from a place that's next to the stools and the urine, and it was just like nothing romantic about that. Nothing romantic about taking, and I'm really seeing like from day one how much misery we go through, and not continuing to be aware of the misery and aware of how much entangled we are in the misery.
Yeah, we've Sarasya Chaham Vidisani Matasmi Jaganama Ponja. Krishna says, for me comes remembrance and forgetfulness. Because if we even if we just remember what it was like to be packed in a womb, and then we'd be like, that's it. I'm gonna become a pure devotee like Vidura. I'm not doing this birth thing again or this disease thing again. But because we're staunch, and it's like, no, I want to continue the David Wolf God project. But if I really starkly remembered, I couldn't do it. So Krishna says, okay, to fulfill your desire to continue to do your little petty God project, I'll support you with intense forgetfulness. But then illusion. Mm-hmm. But then if we really, if we're paying attention, that's why it's like, we're paying attention to Prabhupada books. It's humbling, should be uncomfortable, and it should be. It's not like ordinary reading. This is revealed transformational wisdom. If we're reading, then it moves us to inspiration to be 100% in this process. Drew.
Yeah, like I think there was a comment by someone, Kim, talking about like, oh yeah, that person could say like, I know Thomas Jefferson would say this or do that. And something that's coming up for me is like, I really like to know how Prabhupada would respond to some of the thoughts that I'm having that like seem like to be maybe mental speculation, because I'm just like, well, why? Like, why do I have this arrogance? Like, why do I want like things to be about me? Because like, even just like collecting these flowers, I was like thinking about Krishna and really but like somehow, some way, in different ways, I like bring it back to me. And I think in a way, I'm kind of answering my question by saying that it's kind of like just wanting me to be in the center, wanting like to be glorified, wanting like attention, wanting to be like praised, just like the things that like, like the things that belong to Krishna, like to be thought of, to be worshipped, to be like given to, served with love and devotion. It's like, I'm wanting that for me. And I'm just, it's like it's embarrassing, and it's just like, wow, yeah, that seems to be what it is that like I'm not only like identifying with this body, it seems like maybe that's fundamental, but a part of why I don't know, like maybe I'm identifying with this body is because I'm like refusing in some way to identify as like Krishna's servant, as a spirit soul meant to serve Krishna.
I appreciate your sharing, Drew. And I said, my facilitation for you is be with that embarrassment.
Yeah.
Let's not numb it, because Prabhupada would say, Prabhupada often he uses that word. This is an embarrassing situation to be trapped in a material body. Okay, the proof that I'm not really sincere and serious to be a pure devotee of Krishna. I mean, I can talk about so the proof, this is the proof.
Yeah.
Material body means like, I don't want to serve Krishna. I would forget that Krishna exists. I want to do my God project. And I've probably done it as a worm in stool, maybe as a demigod, as different planets. Now I'm doing it in something called David Wolf. This is the proof. Material body means I want to be the center. I want to be God. I don't want to serve Krishna. So that's why this is a whole process of transformation. I'm reminded in what you shared, Lakshmi Priya Leia. She started her saying is like, what would Jesus do? So she says, what would Prabhupada do? Or what would Prabhupada think about my thoughts? And again, if we're regularly reading Prabhupada, especially reading Prabhupada's books, also hearing Prabhupada's lectures, rarely read Prabhupada's books, then actually it becomes less and less of a mystery of what Prabhupada's stance is. Of course, Prabhupada's stance is always loving to support us to return to the bliss of who we are. Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Srila Prabhupada ki. Thank you. Thanks for your presence. Hare Krishna.